What Pear Deck does, in short, is it allows you to take a Google slide deck and turn it into a high engagement activity that's rich with opportunities to respond, formative assessment, and collaboration opportunities by taking those slides and having the students enter into an activity type learning experience that moves them either synchronously all together with opportunities to respond in writing and questions that they can answer and ways that they can examine each other's responses and things like that. You can build all that stuff in. So ordinarily, if you remember what it looked like to teach, I say it that way, if you remember what it looked like to teach with students in your classroom, it seems like it's been a little while. But like when you would present with slides, and some of us do, a lot of us do, right? If you present with slides, then you're always stopping. The slides aren't your presentation. The slides, you're the presentation, and your slides support you, right? And so you're always stopping. You're always asking the students to lean in and talk to a neighbor or to get their whiteboards out and hold something up, sketch an answer to this question and all of that. That's the type of engagement that you're used to when you're presenting a slideshow type presentation to your students for direct instruction or as part of a learning opportunity. Pear Deck builds that same element in and really supports the remote learning, because it can be tricky to say, like, just the simple task of, hey, get your whiteboard out, right? If your students don't all have whiteboards at home to hold up in front of their cameras, then what do you do about that? Well, maybe there's a way that we can use the tech to do that. Or what's a turn and talk look like when your kids are all sitting in their home offices, right? Those kinds of things. The Pear Deck gives us an opportunity to take an ordinary Google slide experience and add those components in what appears to be, in my opinion, a pretty easy way, okay? So that's really the vision that we have, at least to start with this tool. Kristin, do you want to add anything to that? That's a fair elevator pitch, right?
Yes, I think you did great with that. And they have so many templates that I'm sure you're going to get to that part as well. Many ready-made things. You can make this as big or as small as you want. You can even put a lot of apps into it. Like I have put a Kahoot in, an independent playing Kahoot, and when they get to it, they can play it on their own for asynchronous activities. So there's a lot of opportunities for a lot of fun on this with Pear Deck.
So, all right. So what you're seeing here is not Pear Deck. What you're seeing is YouTube. And the reason that I share this with you is that Pear Deck is a company that does a really good job of supporting its own people, from what I can tell. So their help videos seem to be really good. They seem to be really short, and they seem to be really to the point. And they've got this happy little music in the background too. That's the same for every single one. I learned that. So I'm going to share the link to this, but you can search for them just on YouTube at Pear Deck, and that's the name of their channel, their YouTube channel. If you subscribe to that like this and click that little bell, you'll get a notification every time they put a new video up on your YouTube channel so that you can see. And as you're looking at here, as they share more videos out, you'll be able to see different views of what people are doing, different looks. But anyway, so you've got all these different playlists that exist. If you've never really explored a YouTube channel before, this is all the videos that they have uploaded. And some of these are like examples of what people are doing with them. Others of them are tips from Pear Deck. So this is Pear Deck quick tips, getting started, creating a lesson, adding questions, presenting, managing student responses, teacher dashboards, slide libraries, things like that. And look at all these video times: 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, so it's not taking you a heavy time investment to explore some of these things. Like you get this little happy little jolly little music here, but they're real quick, and they just show the screen and they just walk you right through all the steps. So I'm going to show you a little bit of what this looks like, but I would recommend you
started?
bookmarking
To
this.
set up your account, go to peardeck.com and click Teacher Login.
Right, so it's going to start you from the very beginning. So this is how I would explore this. So what I did was I went to just peardeck.com. And what you're going to need for this, I have found, is that you're going to want to get registered with it, and then there's going to be an add-on that you want to add to Google Slides as well. And that is what's going to give us the flexibility to add these tools to an existing Google Slides document. So we're going to go to Teacher Login. Now, there's going to be two pieces to this. There's the teacher side of this, and then the student side to this. Okay, and when it comes time for you to bring your students into it, the directions are all in a nice little easy to locate format. It's almost like the way you would with Kahoot or Desmos. There's a special URL they link, and there's a little code that they put in, and they're in the experience at that point. And you also have the ability to do this in a synchronous way or an asynchronous way, as if those terms aren't getting overused a little bit. But when you go to Teacher Login, this is something that Pear Deck is that they do ask for an awful lot of permissions. And they do it little bits at a time. It's almost like they're only asking for the permissions they need for any individual piece. And then as you add new things, they're going to ask for new permissions, and they're going to ask for new permissions. So that I noticed that to be true as I started this up over the last couple months. So you notice what I did is I clicked Teacher Login. Okay. And if you haven't used this before, it's going to ask you, okay, are you going to want to set up a new account, or are you going to want to pair with your Google? Okay. So I paired with my Google, so it's sort of recognizing me come back in. It's already put my face up there and everything like that. What you're going to see right away is a couple of things that you can get started with. One of them is Google, this Google Pear Deck for Google Slides. Really, I have found that this is going to function through Google Slides. And when you click Create a Lesson, what you're going to do is it's going to bring up a Google Slides file. Okay. So that's really sort of the platform that it's going to sort of build out of, which is okay for me because that's a familiar platform to a lot of folks. Google Slides is, if you're not familiar with Google Slides, it's like Google's version of PowerPoint, and it's a lot simpler than PowerPoint. PowerPoint is like the Cadillac of slide deck tools, and it's got all these little features all over the place. Every menu's got 10,000 options in it. Google Slides is just a simpler operation. And so what you're going to look at when you click, so remember I clicked just create a lesson. It verified my Google account one more time. And then it brought me into this. Now you notice I've got a new presentation with the little pear up there. Okay, so I could give this a new name, and we'll call this Waverly Sample Presentation. Now it's going to give you some instructions, and do read these. Okay, so for the record, a lot of these tools try and be as helpful as they can, and they're going to say, oh, welcome to the teacher dashboard. Look at this, and look at this, and look at this. And a lot of people just see the button that says skip, and they just hit skip. Don't hit skip. Okay, read all this stuff. Pear Deck's helps are actually pretty good. Okay, so open the Pear Deck add-on through the add-ons menu. Okay, that's the first step here. Now, if you've never messed with add-ons for the Google apps, they're pretty cool. Basically, what they do is they allow you to take the standard Google app and add functionality to it. So like Google Forms has a lot of really cool add-ons that might eliminate options if people have chosen them, or catalog your data in a different kind of way, or take answers and reinsert them later on in the Google form. Like there's all these add-ons that change the way that Google Forms work, right? The same thing is true with Google Slides. That add-ons live in this menu right here at the top, okay? So it's one of these options that live all the way over here. Now, you notice that I already have Pear Deck added, but you won't probably, unless you by chance did it at some PD earlier in the year or earlier in your career. So what you'll do is you'll click down here and go to Get Add-ons. And it's going to bring up a menu. And Pear Deck is probably going to be one of the ones that shows up early. Okay, if it doesn't, that's all right. Just search Pear Deck and it'll show up. So you'll click on it. It'll say, you know, add to slides. Mine says uninstall because it's already there. But we're going to go and open that up. Okay. And all that stuff is one-time stuff. Once that stuff's all in place, you'll be all set. Okay, so this is how you're gonna build this thing out. Okay, so in general, what you're gonna see is when you add one of these things, it's gonna add a slide over here. Okay, so add interactive slides from our own library or create your own custom questions. Okay, so let's suppose that you're going through this thing and you've got some slides in here, and this is going to be a presentation slide, and then this is going to be a presentation slide, and this is going to be a presentation slide, and you're presenting things, and it's all well and good. And then you get to a place where you want the students to do something. Okay, either because you want to pre-assess and check some foundational understanding, or because maybe you want them to engage like a conversation question for something to do some deeper thinking. This is what you're going to do over here. Okay, now you got a couple of choices. This is the template library, right? Explore and add pre-made content to your lessons. Okay, so you've got, they categorize these by the type of thing you may want to do. So you've got lesson builders, learning development, specific things for subject areas. They got a whole category for youngsters, K2. Okay, so beginning of lesson. We're still here at the beginning of the lesson. Okay, so some of these are already built out, right? So this one is a text slide, right? So as you come in and get settled, follow these instructions. Okay, and you notice when I clicked on that, it says it's working, and then it adds that in as a 5th slide. Okay, now when you get in this, it's got the whole background, it's got the whole thing. Down here is your notes to give you some instruction as to kind of how maybe this slide might be used. Of course, you can take the advice on those notes or not. That's totally up to you, of course. But this is a Pear Deck text slide. To edit the type of question, go back to the Ask Students a Question in the Pear Deck sidebar. Once again, I'm saying that they're trying to build it in so that the instructions are all kind of easy to get at. And I think that there helps. Not like I was saying, I know I keep pushing this button, but some tech tools don't have great helps, and some do. And this one, they do a pretty good job of keeping you pretty far in the loop. Now you can, it looks like, can you read? Yeah. So this is editable stuff. If you want, you don't have to keep these. You know, you can keep the formatting, but if Find Your Seat isn't super useful for you because we're in a distance learning environment, maybe you can say, how about mute your mic? There's a good one. You ever watch kindergartners do a Zoom session? I have. All right. And how about maybe for this particular activity, based on the way that your classroom management goes, maybe you want to say turn on your mic or turn on your camera. Okay, so maybe you're comfortable letting the students turn their cameras off when they feel like it, but for certain opportunities to respond, you want them to turn their camera on. Okay, maybe for this, you give them the instruction to turn their camera on. And then maybe you give the direction here, okay, on your whiteboard or on a sheet of notebook paper, do a thing. And hold it up to the camera. I mean, I'm just saying, like, what you choose to put in there is irrelevant. Well, it's not irrelevant, but I'm just saying it's super flexible.
You can add pictures into this. You can change all the instruction. Also, I don't know if you mentioned it, Andrew, along the side where you are finding all those slides, underneath each one, it does tell you the kind of slide that it is. It will tell you if it's a text slide, that means the student will write on it. If it's a drawing slide, and when they write on it as a student, they get an actual open text box that runs on the right-hand side of the slide. If it's draw like this, that's what they're going to draw, and that is their template right there that Andrew is showing you at this time. So the one thing when you're doing a draw slide, always make sure they're going to draw on that slide. Make sure you actually give the student a spot to draw on it. Don't write so much stuff on it thinking they're going to get a separate drawing slide, because this is what they're going to be drawing on. They will have draggables. I know they have draggables in here as well. I think that's one right there.
Yep.
Hey,
And
guys.
they have, yep, and they
Yeah.
have, as, let's see, what's the other one? Draw, draggable, oh, multiple choice.
They have all these pre-built things, you know, and math is one of those pieces that get a little bit tricksy because the just there's structures that are built out, right? So but they've got their number lines with drawing slides, graphs that if you need the students to plot points or to draw lines or functions or anything like that, number slides and things of this nature. What's the best way to beta test and check the student view while building a deck? I would say to get into a different window, like a incognito window, and then enter as a student. And so you'll have your teacher side in one Chrome browser, and then in the incognito browser, you'll have your student view, and then just go back and forth and look. That's what I'd do. That I would say that's what actually I do when I have to test these. All right. So that's the basic structure as far as taking this. Now you can build out any existing slide deck the same way. So like this is a slide deck I used for new teachers back in the day. I don't know when it was, several years back now. But like if this was this is just a slide deck that I used, I could all of a sudden turn this into a Pear Deck lesson and start adding these elements in it with adult learners or with, it doesn't matter, as long as it's one-to-one, as long as the students have a device to look at. And then this is the kind of thing too that you can run it synchronously or you can run it asynchronously. So you can build the activity and the students will go through it whenever they can, or you can build the activity and launch it so that the students are staying with you and everybody's in the same spot at the same time.
And then you can switch it to student paced. So that is really, really helpful. You can start and then you can turn on student paced and you can turn it off. So you're able to do that.
This is a nice component here. It's always been a little bit tricky to get audio into Google Slides or PowerPoint. But for the accessibility feature, especially if you've got little ones or if you're dealing with students who maybe have a need for hearing because maybe their eyes, they have got a disability or they don't read all that well, you can add audio to your slides as well, which is a nice component and something that not every tool makes use of particularly well. This is Be Internet Awesome. That's from Google. That's a really cool thing too, just on its own. I made a video about that. So
I have a question really quick.
Go ahead, Megan.
So I've played around with this a little bit and I've created Google Slides with Pear Decks already. Do you have to give the students a link, or if you present it as a Pear Deck activity, they are prompted to put in a code or they're given the link at the beginning? Is that how that works?
So I think both of those things are true. You can do either one.
Correct.
You click Start Lesson, and at this point you're choosing whether it's student paced, meaning asynchronous, or whether it's instructor paced. So the first part of what we were doing was simply sharing out how we were building the activity. And now we're actually going to talk about delivering the activity. So the students are actually going to engage it. So you'd click Start Lesson. It's just this big green button. And that's the first question you get is, do you want this to be student paced or do you want this to be instructor paced? Okay, who's steering this ship? Okay, so if we choose instructor paced, what we're going to get, once again, it's going to ask me for my permissions because it seems to do that a lot, is it's going to show off this set of instructions for the students. And it is just, Megan, like how you said, they're going to go to joinpd.com, which to us PD means one thing, to the students PD means Pear Deck. But joinpd.com, and then they'll have to do that code. So what that's going to end up looking like is when the students will go to joinpd.com, all it says on the screen is enter code. That's it. They can't possibly screw it up. Well, okay, they probably could, but so then it goes here. So then they would pop that code in, PLPLJ. And you notice down here, it gives you words for it, which is kind of silly. That's true. But it also lets you know what that thing is. That's a lowercase L. So that's why they put that there. So there's some sneakiness going on there. So PLPLJ. Okay, so we're going to go, oh, I'll share that at the end too. PLPLJ. And it knows. Here, now it's asking me, because I'm in an incognito, it's going to ask me to do this. So it will recognize their Google account. I'm in an incognito browser right now, so it doesn't recognize mine. Okay. So it asks this initial question, how are we feeling? Feeling pretty good. They could skip that too if they didn't really care. So now they're loading and their presentation. So this is the experience that they're seeing. I chose teacher paste. There we go.
Okay, so if we type that in,
Yep.
jointv.com, enter the code.
Yep. So now it says one student connected because it's just me, my Ingham me.
Okay.
But if Megan does it, there'll be 2 students connected. Okay.
I should be in.
Oh, a third person's connected. Don't know who. I bet I'll find out. Okay. So now 4. Okay. So now I can hit start class. And now I am presenting, and you're seeing what's on my screen, right? So if I scoot a slide over, now it changed your slide. Scoot a slide. And now you'll get that prompt. Did you see how the little bar came up on the side for you to type things?
Yeah.
So you could type a thing, and I don't even care what the thing is that you typed, but I, as a teacher, will have a dashboard that shows the responses. But you notice if I hit show responses, it is going to show anonymously who you guys wrote so that you guys, oh man, come on now. That away. Good answer. So that you guys can see what each other wrote for the free response. And I have the opportunity to turn those responses back at you, but they're anonymous. So that if the person who wrote I love learning doesn't want everybody to know that they love learning,
Now,
then
can you see who has, like, if as a teacher, can you
Yep.
make sure that people are responding?
Yep.
Yep.
So the open dashboard in a new window is what I would say here. And this is my teacher dashboard. So I can find out who wrote I love learning. Although you would want to have this off your screen. So right now I'm sharing my screen, so y'all are going to see it. So we're going to find out who loves learning. But this is the dashboard here.
Some of the questions I had, Deidre, I had on that was, can you see the dashboard, or can you refer back to it? Yes, you can refer back to it. And the other thing I just learned, Andrew, if you can show it on that one, is up at the top where the responses are. When you're on the teacher dashboard, it says it is loaded according to time. If you click on that little down arrow next to time, you can reorganize it according to alphabetical order.
If you're going to go synchronous, and that's actually advice they give you in the Pear Deck's proper help videos too, say if you've got a Google Meet going, they're going to need the Google Meet window, a tab, and the Pear Deck tab. That is absolutely correct. And so you would need to, that may be part of an early, like Unit 0 style practice round, is can we just get into a Pear Deck and bounce back and forth between the Google Meet and the Pear Deck. And if the students can do that, then we've been successful in that particular Google Meet session, right? Just practicing that go back and forth. So you notice in the presentation here too, it's sharing the notes so that as I switch my slides, I'm seeing the notes as well. So if I type little notes in there, I don't know how many of you use the slide deck notes. I usually fill those up, but okay. So now I can go back to my presentation, hide the responses, and move on to the next slide. And so there's your drawing piece. Tablets, but if you want to just draw a little smiley face or something on there with your mouse and keyboard, so you can get a feel for kind of how that looks. And the same thing is true here. Down here, it's advanced. And I can start seeing who's put their responses in. Oh, go green, go white, Oh, yeah, there we go. I'd have some feedback for this person. So for this, I've got this little feedback tool down here, right? And so with this, I could actually type some feedback in, and I could say equals what now?
I have one more question about the responses. So
Cool. Who did that?
Yeah,
Sorry.
No, that's okay. Is like if a student writes something and you don't, like if, because it's all anonymous when you're just scrolling through responses and they write something inappropriate, do you just get to like exit out?
Do kids do that?
Yes. So on your teacher dashboard, can you hear me okay now?
Yep.
Okay. So on the teacher dashboard, Andrew, like go down to, you would never want to hide this one, but if you go down to the bottom where you had the teacher feedback portion, there's a star. The star means that maybe you only want to show a few of the slides and not everybody. So you pick a few to highlight. So if you do that, then only this particular person plus whoever else you starred would show up if you wanted to share those out with your students. The 3 dots along the right-hand side, the little snowman, Andrew, if you click on that, that's where you can click on hide response right there. Yep, hide response. And then that one would be hidden from everybody if you wanted to do that. So that's hopefully helpful to you.
Awesome, thank you.
You're welcome.
And then it's not, their answers are anonymous to each other, but they're not anonymous to you. So like if a student decided to go rogue and get a little crazy, you've got your bevy of classroom management tools that come into play there too. So hopefully if they decide to go squirrely once, that would be the only time they do it. But you're right.
Yeah, I had a student starting to type last year, first week, starting to type something really inappropriate in the text, and they did not know that I could see what they were typing right then. And I said, oh, and I said to the person's name, and I said, you might want to double check what you're typing there. And then he got really embarrassed at what he was typing and quickly deleted it.
Mary, good question. So it depends on what you mean when you say see the responses. From the teacher dashboard, when I was in the presentation here, I went to my snowman down here and I said open dashboard in a new window. And that's where that lived. Right, no. Right here is where that dashboard is at. So this is the teacher dashboard that it's what it looks like. And that's where I get to go see who put what. For the students to see their responses, I click this little show responses, hide responses button. And when I'm showing responses, that's the anonymous view that that the teachers get, or that you get to show the students what everybody else kind of wrote. So now in the third slide, this is a draggable one.
So the people here will have a little thing to drag. But the cool thing, just so you know, because I didn't find this until later, you can put several draggables on. I think you can put at least 5 different draggables. So if you wanted them to put and you can color them differently. So you can have blue or purple or red. They have icons, like little almost emoji kind of things, like thumbs up, thumbs down. They've got triangles. They've got numbers. So there's a lot in the draggable when you're on the template page. That is where you can find all of that when you're putting a draggable into a slide. So have fun looking at that. You can also change how large the draggable is going to be on the screen. So that I'm giving you that tip because I didn't learn it until I had been working with it for maybe 4 or 5 months. I stumbled on it.
So a couple questions. How do you see the responses before they get posted? So you'll see them in the dashboard and you can review them there before you decide to show to the students the responses. So you
don't even have to show them.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So that's the thing, is I would only choose to show them if you think there's value in showing them. And so if you get a bunch of Like if it's a simple like true or false or yes or no type question, and you just want to get a quick check for understanding and perhaps just a quick verification that the students are still checking in with you, then you may not need to ever show those answers because it's just going to be a bunch of yeses and nos and trues and falses and things like that.
Andrew, click on the draggable right there since you're on the screen right now.
Yeah.
Click on that. It's going to pop open and you can show them very quickly how so right there it says add, and there you go. And you've got all different ones. If you go along the top, you can see addition, subtraction kind of problem. And then there's numbers next to that one on your top screen or your top, there you go.
Oh,
and
rating, yeah.
Yep, and then there's people and exclamation for check marks and things. Now click on the blue button where it says dot. No, not that one. Yeah, over to the right, I think it is. Right on the color block itself, next to it where it says dot, you've got dot, arrow, and down, and then you've got the blue square. No, go up to the blue square. Keep going.
Oh, here.
There's
there
where
we go.
You change your colors. Yep. So there's where you change your colors. All right. And then down underneath the example slide that he has on, you'll see a gray rectangle. You can drag that, and then you can see how large that's going to be on the screen. So if you're working with littles, you might want things to be a little bit bigger for them to be able to capture and drag because their mouse skills may not be as good. So now he can also add another. If it says add another underneath, he can put a second draggable. So you could instruct your kids, I want you to put the purple slide on the vowels, and I want you to put the blue the blue square on the consonants, for example. So those would be different ways to use your draggables.
Oh, there's your icons down there.
Yes.
So did that?
No. So Andrew, when the student gets it, the student will see them up on the right-hand side of the screen when they're in student page.
Oh, so they won't live down here.
Right. They don't live at the bottom. They live at the top.
Yeah. Cool.
Like what you saw when you were doing it, where it came up, that's where it is.
And look at all these people moving their little blue dots around. Some of them are on the thumbs up. Some of them are in the thumbs down. Some are kind of in the middle.
So then if you can also go, Andrew.
Lisa is off the charts.
If you can go up at the very top, you'll see that this is called the overlay. And then right above yours, don't go to that far to the left. Go over now to the left. There you go.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you've got a grid layout. So now he can see all of them. And this is what I do when I want to star some. I'll quickly look and I'll go, okay, I'm going to star that one, and that one, because they're all really quick and it's small to see. But if I want to see them in like one at a time because they have drawings or something like that, then the button to the left of that will put it in a list view. So you have list view, grid view, and overlay. Overlay is what this one defaults to because it gives you a really good sense of where everybody is.
Cool. So if I've starred these, now I'm the ones asking the questions. So it's an exploration. That's why I called it a Pear Deck exploration. So if I've starred these and I go to the slides here that I'm showing the students and I hit show responses, is it only going to show the starred ones? Yes.
Yes.
And that's how you can keep those squirrels who are writing rascally type things from getting their platform that they really want, their stage.
Exactly. Yep.
Cool. Now I've hidden responses. What happens if I hit this lock screens button? You guys can't do anything, can you?
Right. And there is a timer in there. I feel like that's, if I have one complaint, it's probably there because sometimes it's a little, it's a little close on where the click is, and I'll accidentally lock them when I want to give them a timer. So when you give them a timer, it'll actually pop up and this would only be for synchronous, right? So synchronous, I can say you're only going to have 30 seconds, and it puts a timer right up there for them to see how much time they have left. And I often did that with writing or texting so that they get right to it and they're not messing around. It's like you could take 3, 4, 5 minutes on some of these, and you are not going to have that kind of time.
And if I decide in the midst of these, because the conversation is going a certain way, that I want to quickly add a slide, I've got these pre-built options in that I can just drop a slide in quickly.
Yes.
Stress check. How we feeling, everybody? I used to ask my students that. Okay. So then also down here, if I want to say turn on student paste, I could totally switch. Okay, guys, that's our 20 minutes. First half of this is meant to be teacher directed. Now I'm going to pull a small group. The rest of you finish up the Pear Deck, and we're on our way. And then I would say end, or I'd click on the snowman, and I'd say turn this on to student paste. I'd say, okay, got it. And now you guys should be on your own to navigate through the slides all on your own. And then I would go back to the slide deck, and I could see over here how many people I got in each spot. So I'm seeing people navigate through this. It doesn't look like anybody's going backwards. Oh, we got some people who haven't really, who are still in the beginning there. But then if I click on this, I can see the answers. People are, no, please don't call on me right now. I have felt that way at times. So, all right. And then I could click end, and that would be the end of that. Leave and allow students to keep working. Yeah, sure, that's fine. I don't need the dashboard up anymore, though, because I got other things to do. And now I'm back here. And that session would live right here, where all the sessions I do are going to be listed there for my review later. If I've got self-paced stuff and I say to the students, I need this done between now and the time I see you again tomorrow, I would go through there. I'd be able to check and see their progress. This is the session name. This is the status that it's living under. It's a student-paced assignment when I gave it. And then this is the file so that you can see the actual Pear Deck file in your Google Drive. And in Google Drive, it adds that little pair to the name of the file too, so that when I'm in my Google Drive, I'll know quickly which of my slide decks I have got Pear Deck involved in and which ones I do not.
The last thing on that, Andrew, is you've got an option to reopen the same session. If you've ended it and you want to reopen it to students, you can do that. Also, when you get all done, you can send feedback to all of your students in Google Classroom. So it will give you that prompt. And what the students get is they get a copy of their slides and all of their answers, not everybody's answers, only theirs. So if you wanted them to be able to go back and look at their work, there's even a spot on there where they can do a reflection on theirs, and you can tell them, I want you to fill out that reflection and even turn that part in as an assignment. So that is all an option through Pear Deck.
So Susan asked the question, how do they submit the Pear Deck when they're finished? I'm assuming she means a self-paced activity.
Yeah, self-paced activity, when they get done with it, they just click out. It's all tied into Google and it's all saved. They don't have to click a submit button, nor do they have to ever click a save button. It's all in real time. So when they're done, they can click out of it, and you're going to see. At the bottom of your screen on the teacher dashboard, probably one of the best things is you can see, like if I go in and I'm doing Andrew's Pear Deck and I skip a slide or two, at the bottom it's going to actually say students who have not yet responded. And it will list anybody who is in the session or has started that and they didn't respond. So you're going to be able to see that right away in real time. If you're doing it synchronously, you can say, hey, you know, Tom, you haven't yet submitted yet an answer. Let's get going, or are you having an issue? You're going to be able to know that. Or, and so that's one of the best things. Right down there, you can see who has not yet responded. So
I'm in slide 9 here. And I looked at the problems. This happens to be sorted by student, but I could go grid. And then at the bottom, it says these 9 people have not yet responded. I haven't heard from, Frank, Lisa, Bridget, Bethany, Carrie, Nicole, Andrew, Kim, or Heather.
Yeah. I do have one more question.
Go ahead.
So if we are teaching, like I have 4 sections of biology, but I really only want to create one Google slide because I want to do the same presentation. Do I need to create 4 separate Pear Decks, or every time I open a new one, does it create a new link?
Yeah, so if it were me and I had, like, so I have Mrs. Burns' class in my class. So if I'm doing a Reading Street slide deck, I can launch it and my class can be in on that one. And then Mrs. Burns' class comes in, I launch the same exact slides, but when I start the presentation again, it gives it a whole new name, and so only those students are going to be in on that one. So you can have as many Pear Decks going as you need simultaneously, and then you can go back and take a look at what everybody did.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
And those would show up as different sessions
Yeah.
on your teacher dashboard.
Okay.
And
So
you can rename the session anything you want. So you can say, you know, whatever your codes are, first hour biology, and then you're going to be able to put whatever, you know, colon after that and what the name of that particular slide thing was that you wanted them to do. So, yeah, so that's what the beauty is. It's very user-friendly. It works so well with Google Classroom. It's not even funny.
Man.
Yeah, Nick is
snuck right up on
asking,
me.
so can you say again how to launch a Pear Deck slide for the second time? So I can open up my presentation from my Google Drive, and then I click Start Lesson there. All right, and then that one is going to go. I can open up another tab and reopen the same slide deck and start another session. So I can have multiple sessions going at the same time with the same slide deck, but as long as I'm starting the lesson from Pear Deck separately, I'm going to get separate lessons. So the only other thing you didn't talk about that I'm going to say really quickly is one of the templates that you have an option that is probably one of the most exciting ones is the website button. The website button allows you to embed a website so your student never has to leave the Pear Deck, and it will automatically take them to that particular website. There's a little bit of you can put the URL in, but if you make it embeddable and you take only the embeddable code, which I do have that highlighted on a Wakelet that I did, if Andrew wants to share that out, you can share out the Wakelet. It shows exactly the part that you need. And so I screencastified myself a lot, and I would embed it right in there. So when kids are doing their student pace, they would see me actually give the instruction, and I would say on the next slide, this is what you're going to be asked to do. So all kinds of app smashing. You can put Ed Puzzle, you can embed that in there. If you went to the student pace slide deck that I have, you're going to see some of those things happen.
Did you just use the term app smashing?
I
Awesome.
did.
That doesn't get out nearly enough.
I know it doesn't, because it's so fun.
So if you're not familiar with Wakelet, in my opinion, sits in the same type of category as a s'more, but it's basically like an interactive, like newsletter kind of deal, kind of. So basically, if you click on that link, you're going to come to a scrollable page that has it's got websites, it's got videos to watch, links to click on and it's all about Pear Deck. So that would be a nice resource in addition to Pear Deck's YouTube channel for you to keep bookmarked. And then you can also follow Pear Deck on Twitter and some of those things as well. There's Facebook groups and things like that. I mean, depending on how many resources you really are looking to curate.